Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is our first official Soul Blueprint reading with Bella Krystal Design, me, Ashley, and Simone, who is our resident soul conversationist. Conversationista. I don't know. Lovely Simone. And today we have Sue. And Sue is super brave for coming on and connecting with us and you guys, and also hopefully not feeling too bombarded with all the excitement we're probably going to bring through from different channels of us. So we'll see how this goes. So Sue, thank you for coming on and welcome. Did you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with Gene Key's human design and maybe spirituality in general?
Gene Keys and human design are the latest things that I've come to, but I would say that I've been on this journey, if that's the word that seems to get used, isn't it? Certainly since I became a mother, which is 30 years ago. But my mum was very much a spiritual person. In fact, she used to take me to the spiritualist church when I was a kid, me and my brother. But nothing was ever discussed within the house, because in those days you were a bit weird and wacky. So it was a very private thing in our house, and we just went like it was our normal thing, going to church. But that set a lot of seeds for me in terms of there being other ways to view things and a deeper resonance of who we are, that there's more to who we are here and now.
Beautiful. Lovely. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I guess, is there any questions you have for us before we kind of dive into this, or any kind of focal point you kind of want for the reading?
Focal point would be the deepest way that I'm here to serve, really. I've been blessed with having a family of 4 beautiful children. I'm happily married. I have a lot of things to be joyful for, but there's still the element of there's more to give, and I'm not sure how to connect to that service. I've done 30 years of exploration within the personal development field and have a lot of good tools that connect to each other in a good exploration of how we get where we are. But I'm not serving to the capacity that I would like. I would like for children to be able to. It seems to me silly that we get later in our life and then start to look back at where we went wrong, quote unquote, when we don't look to who our gifts and who we are as individuals earlier on and celebrate our differences for each other and for ourselves. But we look to undo the challenges later on with mental and emotional challenges that a lot of people have.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I mean, everyone is doing that now. If they're not doing it at all, if they're walking around as these kind of big kids, because they haven't had the maturity coming into their emotional, mental, spiritual, physical maturity because of the things that happened in childhood that they're not reclaiming again. So I think you're absolutely right. And the focus now moving forward, I feel like, is to get everybody caught up. And we've seen a lot of the people that we're attracting are more mature and have had all these experiences. And it's like, we need to get everybody caught up because we're in the last 7-year cycles. I mean, you followed human design. This is the last 7-year cycles, but before the kind of program shifts to these new humans, which the children. And so it's important for us to get onto that level of like, I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm here. I'm doing it. And it's okay if the energy in the program is not serving me anymore. It's okay. I can stand on my 2 feet. But besides the people that are walking around saying, universe, take care of me. Take care of me. What's going to happen when that's not the case anymore? It's like, you have to have your center, your core, and know, like, here's what my divine purpose is, and here's how I'm serving it. And also here's how I'm helping the kids have their footing, get their footing too. Because that's important. We don't want the kids to be where we're at looking back. We want everybody to just, let's take ourselves integrated and whole throughout each year of life. It's like, oh, okay, let's come back. So
yeah, I see it as equality through diversity and appreciating the differences.
That's a beautiful way to say that. Simone, I'm kind of feeling like maybe before we get into the charts, the technical stuff, do you feel like you're ready to kind of tap into, I think maybe the higher self, the soul, and kind of see what kind of comes forth from like a bigger root perspective, besides like us trying to like put her in a box of these charts? She's so much more expansive than these designs.
Yep, let's
She's
do
got an
it.
oversoul too that has nothing to do with this.
Right, totally. And I'm super excited. I looked at your chart and I'm always so blown away by the beauty of people's charts. And I looked at your chart and I fell in love with you, just, like from that energetic level. So I'm super excited to do this with you today. So can you say your name as you like it said? Could you do that for me twice?
Sue, just a Christian name. It's Sue.
Your name, how you feel, your name is. Mm-hmm.
Sue Frend. Sue Frend.
I like to communicate with the soul of Sue Frend for the purpose of healing. Sue's soul, will you communicate with us? Of course, I'm always here. I mean, your soul is the top half of the image is masculine, the bottom half is feminine. So from the top half, he's got a hat on, like a top hat, and he has like a tuxedo on and then a skirt. So I'm going to say they, because it seems like a combination of masculine and feminine energy. So they are like super, super happy being, like full of celebration of life. And I can feel that energy in my body. And it is so happy. It's like popping tears into my eyes. And I'm asking, he's like, wait. He's on a unicycle. like a unicycle will go up and back and is always able to find this balance. He's on this unicycle and he shows how he can go forward, backward, spin the other way. He can roll forward. He's saying, look what I can do. Look what I can do. Like you're a master of your of the unicycle, which takes incredible balance. That's while I'm watching him, that's what I keep feeling in my body, this word balance, and finding the balance of staying still or moving forward, moving backwards, spinning, turning. And the other word that flies out is entertainment. It's like you're a one-man show, like 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 you have mastered the entertainment of. And I was asking him, is that entertaining herself or everyone? And herself and everyone, He's saying that now he's moving forward. They're moving forward on the. I keep going to that he because he's masculine on top. He says that you have so much more moving forward ahead of you. He says, life is really just beginning for you, and as much as you've done, you have that much more and again. And so that, he's saying that as an encouragement that if you think about where you began and what you've bloomed to, he says, imagine blooming from the bloom where you are right now. And he's literally showing that to me. Like the moment you had this impetus for this pathway in your life, you bloomed from that point that you were talking about, that base. And now he's showing me the flower that you are, and it's like you're blooming from the epoch of that bloom, and it's exponential. So almost it reminds me of like a floribunda rose that like a bunch of them bloom, and then a bunch of them bloom, and then a bunch of them bloom. And so he's saying that you have. He's still on the unicycle, but it's almost like he pulled out this silver platter. And he reached down and he's like serving people. You're bringing, what a beautiful image of service, that all that you are, all the blooming of you is ready to be delivered on this silver platter to others. And when he does that, there's such, when you think about fine dining and everything is so elegant and so seemingly effortless. But we all know that there's a lot of work that has gone on behind the scenes to make everything look so perfect and easy. And he shows me like your initial flower, and it's a beautiful flower. It looks like a camellia or a rose. It's this beautiful pinky red flower that has, you know, infinite petals, and it's unfolded, and it's right on the middle, the center of the silver platter that actually has a sacred geometry underneath it. And it's like when you serve, you are serving the finest of you, that you bring the best, the flowering of you to every person you serve. And he's saying, honor that every time you serve someone, you are giving the bloom, the sacredness, the sacred geometry of you on that silver platter. And you make it look easy because of who you are and the work that you have done to bring that presentation of service to others. And it's like when he swoops down. Now imagine this, like he's showing us so much there. You're on a unicycle balancing, and you swoop down while balancing on a single wheel, and you present a silver tray with the bloom of you to this person. And you do it with so much grace and so much perfection in so much style, and you're offering all that you are on this platter to this person, and there's all the respect embodied in that as you do that. And then when you're finished with that serving, off you go on your you're going down, like, where's the next place that I serve? And it's like he's showing me that you have infinite silver platters in you to offer to other people, and there's the infinite blooming of you to serve with. And what he most wants you to know is to always respect the beauty, the courage with which you serve, the divinity of your gift to others, and honor it's like the respectful. It's like in serving others on the silver platter, the bloom of you, you absolutely are respecting the people you are working with. And he wants you to respect yourself with as much respect as you serve others with. And that each time you're serving someone else, that you truly embody and understand all that you are offering, and that's the perfection of the bloom for you. And when there are certain details, like I see that sacred geometry on the silver platter that you serve with, and I see your flowering right in the middle of that sacred geometry, I have a feeling there's symbolism in there for you that I don't know about. And there might even be, when the details, like the color of the flower is so vivid, and that it's a silver platter, and all those things I'm feeling like are meaningful to you in a way beyond what I can know. Let's see what else he has to say. He says that while you're serving and you're going down this pathway, and there are people on, it's almost like, when you watch a marathon and there are people on the side and they're handing out water and stuff, but you are the marathon, like you are on the pathway, and you're on this marathon, right? And the pathway is, I don't see an end to the pathway. It's a pathway, and it's a curvy path. And all along the way, there are people on either side, and you're serving them, and you're serving them, and you're serving them. And he also shows me that while you're serving others, you're also looking at the trees, at the forests that are on either side of this pathway through this Greenland. And he says that you're looking to the forest, and somehow the forest is what feeds you, what's off in the distance, that forest feeds your soul. And it's what you do to have that constant blooming of flowers, the ever blooming flower of you. And he says, don't feel bad that you dream about what fulfills you. He says it's not a wrongness. He says it's part of the design of you, that it's essential that you feed yourself with beauty. And he says it's okay that you dream about what serves you as you serve others. He says that there is no wrongness in that. And, don't feel guilty or don't, he really wants you to see it as part of your human design, of part of your process, that it's what feeds your soul to see the things that feed you. And he says, when you allow what feeds you in your life, it's like the forest so here's the curvy path, and you're going down it, and there are people along the path, and then there's this grassy way, and then the forest. And he says, when you allow the forest to exist, the forest comes right up to the sidewalk, just swings right in, and it's huge, and it's like going through the most beautiful forest you can ever imagine. And the people you're going to serve, they're still there, but you get to feed your soul with the life of the forest. So the more you dream your dreams, the more you tap into those things that you're looking at as you serve, and the more you allow them to live, the more they are going to come into the presence of your life and be right there with the people you're serving. So you lift yourself up, and you have more in your heart when you, it's like then the service of others, because then it's like he gets off the unicycle and now he's walking, and it's like it reminds me of the feeling of a leader of state or somebody important walking through a crowd who's shown up to see them. You're right there, so it's, you don't have to do the balancing act or the whole one man show. It's like when you allow the things that feed you to come be, you allow that wisdom, that knowledge, that desire to exist, and it's right there, then you get off the unicycle and you get to serve in an easier way, it's like he shows me, like you're just standing there shaking hands, and it's like the flower is now in your hand. And every time you shake someone's hand, it's like you're pressing the flower, or you sharing the flower of you. And it's so effortless. It's like not, the difference in the visions before, when you were on the unicycle, you made it look and you had this all presentation. But now with all this stuff that you desire becoming present in your life, it's as if effortless as just shaking someone's hand, and you're sharing the flower of who you are. And I saw the word ease as I was watching the handshake. Ease, grace. There's more time for you. There's more space for you. So there's a balance there of pursuing your own desires and allowing them to live, and allowing that to be a part of your service. So if you think of, when I pursue my desires and what's in my heart, the flowering of me, when you allow that to live, that energy to be so present in your life, it becomes integral to how you serve, and how you serve becomes effortless and so easy, like walking down the street, shaking hands with others. And in that sharing, you literally send the flower of who you are into each person's hand. It's really a beautiful, I got teared up so many times with the love flooding me from your soul. Do you have any questions for your soul?
Whatever it takes for me to be more aligned on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. So what he shows me is you sit up in bed in the morning, your feet haven't even touched the floor. Just put your feet over the side of the bed. And he says, from that moment, acknowledge the flower of who you are. Bring it into your heart. Send that energy right down into the feet, into your grounding, so that when you step onto the floor, you are stepping into the flower of who you are. And he says, have that intention. Today I live the flowering of my life. Today I live the beauty of me. And there's a sacred geometry there. So if you can imagine, there's the flower in your heart, the flower of you in your heart, and the flower of you in the chakras in your feet, right in the heart of the hearts of your feet, and the heart in here. And there's a a triangle geometry. And he says, walk forth every step in that geometry of the flowering of you and let your heart bloom. And then he shows me the fractal of that. So it's like when you begin your day like that, and you put your feet on the floor in that sacred geometry of the flowering of you, it exponentializes. The energy just becomes a fractal.
Thank you.
And he says, if you forget at any moment that that's how you began your day, if there's any moment of struggle in your day, pause, reactivate, and step forward from that place.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have any other questions for yourself?
Only, I was going to say only what my soul wants me to know, but you've just given me that.
Well,
Will it be this lifetime?
Yeah, he also wants you to know how beautiful you are and to really embrace the beauty of who you are. And I am just being flooded with love. And he says the beauty of that flower of the inside of you is what other people experience. And he says, I wish that you could hold the beauty of you as I hold you and as every person who you're in their life, that they hold you. And it's like my grandmother used to have these beautiful camellia trees, and she would have a saucer of water on her table, and she'd always find the most beautiful bloom, and she would float it in water. And when he was talking about the beauty of you that other people see, it's like they hold you in these sacred vessels with this flower of you in water. And he says, I wish you would hold you as I and others hold you in the beauty of who you are and all the beauty that you create in this world by what you do and how you flower.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Such a grace. Thank you for allowing me to work with you and your soul in this beautiful blueprint reading today. And I'm going to stay open until the end so that if he wants to pop in, he can.
Would you give my thanks?
I am. He's receiving. He showed it to me by like, imagine like a water gun that sprays water, but it was like you were shooting the flower of you right into his heart. So cool. He received you infinitely, exponentially.
Thank you, Simone.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I don't even know how to like follow up with that.
Wow.
But
Wow. Follow that.
This is such a treasure for you to have moving forward too. And I feel like a lot of the symbolism and analogies that he was bringing forth, but we heard from the masculine side more. I feel like I could connect to a lot of the things in your design. So there's more to uncover behind why the symbolisms were coming the way that they were. And I think it's phenomenal to have that kind of practice and mantra from your soul to like, I wake up, thank you, gratitude for the day, and let's remind myself of who I am and how I show up in this world. And how could you not be aligned from that place of intention? Okay, so then let me share your chart. Here we go. Okay. So just to give a little bit about Sue's design, she is a manifesting generator with an emotional authority. It looks like you're 3-5, and we have the cross of exclamation. This means that we have the 4, the 49, the 23, and the 43. So
Generator.
You do generator. Oh, sorry, generator.
Yeah.
Yes, generator. And you do have anytime we see the 23, 43, it's the genius to freak channel. It's unconscious in your design. So I'm interested in investigating that as well. Bella, is there anyone anywhere? I mean, you were taking notes before, so I am interested in you kind of taking the lead, and then I'll fill in the notes that I had, and let's just dive right in.
I mean, I feel like this is such a confirmation to have Simone with us, because what I was going to speak about and what is in my notes is so much the same thing. But of course, when you speak about Simone, it comes out in a very beautiful, loving, and poetic way. And the way that we speak about it, sometimes it comes out in mechanics. So I'm already seeing everything that you were saying. I have, because you were sharing with us a little bit about your background. You were saying you don't have a lot of memories from your childhood. You're speaking about the mother that was before her time, but at the same time, before her time spiritually. But at the same time, she was quite, what I understood, strict with morals and reputation. You speak about the father that had to work hard, but was a little bit bitter about that and kind of could go into blame. But you say you don't have a lot of memories about your childhood. I still would like to understand a little bit first of all, the dynamics between your parents. And then when you were a small kid, if you can, give us something. I had this many brothers and sisters. We lived here or there. I want to paint a picture of you, of like how you saw your parents and who you were as a child before school started.
I have one brother, and he's just shy of 2 years older than me. He had some health challenges when he was younger, with a collapsed lung and dyslexia and a few other things. Not a few other things, but he was always the one to need the attention. And I was always the good girl because I didn't need any attention. So everything was right with me, if that makes sense. So there was always an expectation that everything I did was expected. So even if I did really well on tests and things, it was like, well, yeah, right, that's just because you're normal. But I was the one to always be very quiet. My mum was very strict, and it was a case of opinions weren't really allowed. Yours is not to reason why, yours is but to do or die. But from a really loving place, I know that now as an adult. But as a child, I was quite frightened of doing anything that would displease either of my parents. I loved them both, but felt I was closer to my dad as a child, which changed as I got to be an adult. But as a child, just very strict household, very rights and wrongs, and you were known by the company you kept, and who I was allowed to socialise with, or people that were allowed to come round or not, was very restricted. So yeah, just very, very much dampened down. But I didn't recognise that at the time. That's only in hindsight looking at that, obviously. But my mum used to talk with her eyes, so she would only have to flash me a look, and I would know, that I was back in my box.
Yeah.
But that's obviously my perception of it, because my brother is very different, and he had cracking rows with my mum, so he wasn't afraid to speak to speak up and have those discussions, shall we say. But I never felt safe, so
yeah,
that was yeah.
So what was the dynamics between your parents? Did they get along or not so much?
I don't remember them not particularly getting wrong. I could say that I can remember some arguments, but I remember them because they were big. But there weren't many of them. But they were very traditional in their roles. They both worked really, really hard, and we had everything and more than the local people did. We were very, very well catered for, and had lots of external classes and things. Like I was sent to judo and to ballet, and it were never things that I would want to do. I was never asked what I wanted to do, but they were things that were character building, or they were good for us, so we had to do them. So everything was done out of love to improve what mum and dad, mum predominantly, thought was going to be good for us. So coming from a really good place, but was never about doing things that we wanted.
Yeah, and I love that you're saying that, because there's something I see in your chart has to do with leadership. And it sounds like, to be able to have more than people around you, and your dad working hard, like it sounds like a kind of leadership. But at the same time, you're saying that he was either working or watching TV, and that he was actually a little bit bitter and blaming. So it looked that it would be leadership. What made him not be happy about the situation, although there was many valuable things?
He felt that he wasn't educated. He had to finish his education at 13 because of the timing. So he had to bring home finances into the family at that early age. So he had a real chip on his shoulder for anybody with an education.
Yeah.
And my relationship with him changed dramatically when I got together with my husband, because he is educated, and that was a very big divide between us then. It went dramatically down. Mum had died by that point. She died at 57. She died very young. But our relationship went really downhill from then. He was a projector, which I didn't know at the time. I didn't know anything about anything at that point. But he was a very, very bitter man and did his utmost best to try and push me away.
Okay, well, thank you. And I wonder, when you started school, like, it sounds like there was no point for you really to, I mean, you kind of had a role that was expected of you, and you kind of had to live up for that. You didn't really have a choice. It sounds like that was even up to the age. But can you tell us something about when you started school? Was that like a liberation for you in one way to get out of home, or how did you feel? You said you didn't have big groups of friends, but did you feel like school as an overall experience was good for you, or did you feel you did it, but it was not really your way of taking in information? Could you tell us a little bit about school, the first 6 years, for example?
Don't remember a lot about the first 6 years, to be honest. I do remember the overall theme is that I enjoyed school. Some lessons more than others. I particularly remember having really good discussions in religious education, because you could have a discussion with the teacher. That was probably the only lesson where you had a dialogue about your thoughts about what you were taking on, rather than factual stuff. Particularly enjoyed that. I can remember being always in the top class for maths, but always feeling like they've got me in the wrong group. There's somebody going to come and open this door any minute and call me out and make me, I'm going to feel really embarrassed and laughed at for being in the wrong place, because I shouldn't be in this top group.
Yeah.
So
that makes so much sense. Yeah.
When I did my 11 plus, apparently I was borderline, and that's an exam over here that decides whether you go to a comprehensive or the grammar school. And my parents chose to send me to the comprehensive, because even though I could have gone either way, they felt that because of my quiet nature, that I would be more comfortable at the top end of the lower school, rather than sending me to the other way. But they did what they felt was best, and obviously that was in the design. So yeah, it was the best.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, because you're speaking about your relationships, and you had a boyfriend, I think, from you were 15 to 18, a long relationship, and then you actually met your husband, and you're together since 35 years. So I'm thinking there is this theme of liberation in your chart that is very powerful. So I want to hear a little bit about when, did you have like a time where you actually were rebelling a bit with your parents, where you felt free, or what is that like? Are you still waiting for that time, or how does, when you get a little bit older, like 15 and more, how did you relate to the world, to your parents? Did you have that breaking away from the rules, or can you speak about that for a little bit?
Yeah, I left home at 16, but that was because of the job. I was working in a bank, and they literally moved the head office to a different area, quite a way away, and I was invited to go and join them, so that was respectable. It was my job, so there wasn't a problem me leaving home and going to do it. So I think I was 17 when I actually went, 16, 17, which was a big thing in those days, and I hadn't realised that I wanted to get away from home, but I was ready to go, if that makes sense. So that was probably my breaking away, if you like, because I went to college but gave it up really early, because my then boyfriend, education wasn't as important as it has become these days, and because we were going out from being 15, it was like, oh, what do you need an education for? You can get a job and get some money together and get a house and everything, which I did. I wanted to marry at 16, and Mum said no. So I got married at 18. I was divorced by 20. So yeah, because it was, I don't know if I can say this on air, but I'll say it anyway. I was damaged goods. In the way I was brought up was that your full relationship didn't happen until after you were married. So I was brought up to believe that I had to go through with the marriage, which I did.
Yeah. That's so, I'm going to come back to that because that's very connected to that theme of liberation. I feel like I have one more question though, because we are going to go into many of the spheres in your chart. And this has to do, it's like the question about abundance, because part of like where you wanted to focus here is that how do you serve the world and how do you create abundance? And I had a little bit of a question of the current business, because it sounds like you are even feeling like you're working more than your husband. I think he's retired, so that you are actually working a lot to bring in money. And I wasn't interested in what, if you could speak a little bit about what you're working with and the characteristics, and if that is something you want to expand or why that doesn't completely serve you. So we know when we go into the pearl sequence, what the dynamics are and where we can start to pull the activations.
What I really love, what lights me up, is looking at the connections between different things. So I could spend all day, every day, looking at human design, looking at various other aspects of different personality things. One thing leads to another, and it's just like I am enthralled by it all.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm learning about myself, but I'm learning about all these different things. But what I am not good at doing is sharing what I've learned, because nobody's asking for it. And although I've got a website out there, and I've got a few people that come to me from that they know what I do and they recognize, it tends to be when people are in a really bad place emotionally. But I don't really want to do that. I want to work with people up front and give them, show them the tools that can support themselves so they don't get to that place. I really believe in prevention rather than the cure. I just think we've got it arse backwards. So I'm not really putting myself out there, to be honest, but I'm creating an online portal so that because it's cost me a fortune and it's taken a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel really passionately that this should be knowledge that is available to all, ideally in the education system, but that's not happening right now. But it needs to be accessible to people that haven't particularly got the time for it or the money for it. So that's why I'm looking to create an online service where I can connect with people, but it's a much reduced cost.
Yeah.
But it's been a work in progress for a long time, and I don't know the stumbling blocks on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm looking at the clock and I know we have like 20 minutes something, and there's so much, like from what Simone brought in, there's so much. So I'm gonna see, the most that I can weave this, because I'm like you, I'm a connector, and that's what that's what I love, and that's what I'm passionate about. So the way that Ashley and I always look at the especially the gene keys, is that the Venus sequence is what underpins the pearl sequence. So in order for us to understand how we can pull the activation in the pearl, we really need to look at that underpinning that is in your Venus sequence, and that has to do with that has to do with even the part of you in the conception when you're still not even born, because that's when the soul chooses that core wound that you are here to open up and become really your light in the world, your vocation. So
I had a realization in very recent years that maybe I wasn't even wanted. That's not a direct conversation I've had, but my mum tried for many, many years to get pregnant and had the first child, Gary. And then I came along 2 years later and was a surprise. And it was a conversation we had afterwards that made me think, actually, she wasn't planning on having me. And I won't suggest what that is online, but...
Yeah, this is super, super strong in your theme. And I almost think we might have to go over a little bit. And Simone, at the end, if you need to leave to start the other conversation we have, I think that's possible. There's something extremely strong with your theme that is coming out right now, and that I feel is a transmission for the universe. And, this is how you are here to share with the world. And actually, there is going to be some interaction on this. So when you're speaking about what you're speaking now, I'm looking at the core wound, which is it sets the vocation in the chart that Ash is going to show. And I'm looking at the XQ. So here we have the 9 months of conception, when that core wound, that immature masculine wound that the humanities is actually unwrapping right now, that together with the XQ, which is the 7 first years of embodiment when your physical development takes place, is showing what you were just speaking about. The line 3 in the core wound is about failure. And your mom had been trying, it's failure and trial and error. She had been trying to get pregnant. It didn't work. And, suddenly it works. But actually at that point, it wasn't leadership anymore. It wasn't what you really wanted, maybe. Maybe you came as a surprise and a shock. And gate 51 is the gate of shock. So it's saying this. It's speaking about this thing about your mom being in a kind of trial and error process. And then it happened. And there is something that's really strong with your father too, because I was speaking about leadership, and it feels like on the outside what he was actually bringing in, it's all about value. But actually, he wasn't feeling leadership. He was feeling he was not good enough. He was feeling that he wasn't stepping up in his life completely, and that made him bitter. And it's almost like you in your life right now, you have this portal, you've created something, but nobody's really listening to you yet. So there is a little bit of that theme. So there is something that happens in your Venus sequence that we want to unlock so that it can underpin your pearl. Because since this is still like this, it's not really opening so you can step in your leadership. And you're speaking about safety in your childhood, and not really, that's the thing, and not really feeling it, and have to be in a certain way that we're expecting from you. If we look at your human design, you have an open ego center, so that is all about expectations, about living up. And we see that you have that gate of exhaustion. So you could your life, and I see a little bit of these patterns now saying, yeah, your husband is retired, he has much more time with the kids, and you are still working, and you're still working without really being in leadership, without really being recognized. So that is there. And also the first line is about rhythm, and you weren't allowed your own rhythm, because they put you in ballet because that was supposed to be there. They restricted you how free you could be as a child, so you didn't have your own rhythms. As a child, you didn't have that certainty of rhythms, that you were here to be empowered. First line, the individual is here to be empowered. And you were also quite lonely because your little brother had all the attention. So your life is like kind of, okay, you have to go there, you have to go there. And then even this feeling of a little bit being in the wrong group. And that has to do also, I feel, with both the open ego center and the open G center. And then we can continue and go to the EQ, because this is school. And here is also, it's like your parents decided what school we're going to go to. And there's not really any diplomacy to it. And they are just deciding who you are. And there's a part of you emotionally, I think, that checks out, that is not there anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because it seems that, I'm expected to be like this. I'm the good girl. They're sending me wherever they want. And okay. But there's an inner conflict, because that's not really you. Because it's not that you are not actually quiet. You love to go to religious, when you have a conversation with a teacher. You're already this person that sees patterns and that weave things and that love to do these things that they're doing today. That was already there, but it wasn't recognized. So part of your emotional thing kind of left. And then what I see in the IQ, when you got 15 and older, you didn't believe in liberation. You didn't say, okay, my life force is important, because you have the second gene key, which is the feminine in your sexuality, in your attraction. You're here to be Shakti, and it's the fifth line. You're here to be super sensual. But instead of liberating that in playfulness and dynamism, which is the 39, you were listening again. You're signing from your liberation, saying, okay, I have to get married first. But that was completely wrong for you. So you went into like a relationship that was about, unliberation and provocation, where you couldn't stay for more than 2 years. So there is this part of you that didn't get that liberation. And it's almost like now you're also not in a relationship, but in a situation in your life where your husband has more time, with you that have been working, creating this portal and system so long, you're not free yet. And it feels like whenever you feel that, your mind is so quick and says, well, I worked with this for so long, I have to continue doing it. So it's almost like your mind is keeping you in this loop where you're not really getting liberation. And if we look, and this is very much how the energy works in the body. Looking at your body graph, you have a split. And you are a generator. So you're here to work from your sacral center. That's how you use your energy. It's very connected to your grounding, to your primal, to your feminine, and it's also grounded to the emotions. It's grounding to intimacy, which is that 59. It's really grounded into intimacy. That's your north node, and devotion. Very feminine. Your two north nodes are devotion and intimacy, and transparency. And there's almost something in you that isn't transparent, because you're pretending that you are concentrating on your work and on money and on bringing home to the family the same way like your dad did. So you're becoming your dad, and you don't want to become your dad, because you see how actually he's not completely opening up for all in life. He's even rejecting you because of a jealousy issue, because he never stepped into his leadership. And you could go down the same path. And that's what we want to make sure, that you find your liberation, south nodes, you find your fire, the other south node. And here we come into that flower, that yin that Simone was speaking about. You are here to be a flower. You're here to be in your sacral center. You're here to be in the emotional center, in intimacy. You're here to have amazing experiences. The 41 and the 30. These are like amazing, big, strong experiences. And spirit is here to be liberated through you. 39, 55, the channel of the liberation of spirit. So this is, as a generator, this is what, when there is a split, you always have to start with your inner authority. You are an emotional generator. You are here to live and spark from emotion, from grounding, and from using your energy right. When all that sparks, when you're completely fueled by your own life force, then you have a superpower, which is your throat and your ajna. And you have a lot of red activation, a lot of soul activation there. So you cannot even think about how they will come out. When you're grounded in who you are, they are going to come out. And it also means that we don't want you to fall into the unworthiness in your open ego like your dad did. We don't want you to fall into like, what is my identity? Who is going to listen to me? Where am I going? Like the open G. And we also don't want you to fall into the fears of not having money, for example, in the open spleen. So that's something, all that we don't want you to fall into. But if you stay in your sacral, if you stay in your emotion, if you stay in your yin, if you know that you're a beautiful flower, then automatically the throat and the ajna that has mastery, that has leadership, that has spontaneous expression, that has genius, that can see patterns that are very complex and abstract and take them in, understand them and give them to the world, which is, I'm speaking about now gate 31, 16, 23, 43, 47, and 4. That comes out in all soul expression in the world, and you are going to be heard because it's that genius channel. But it comes from you being grounded in your body. Everything is red, everything is DNA, everything is soul in your superpower of the ajna and the mind. So that's so important. And then, without speaking too much, it's a journey where you start from your IQ, you reclaim the positive part of it, dynamism and playfulness. You are a 3-5. You're here to be dynamic. You're not here to be consistent. You're not here to have an agenda. You're not here to work a certain amount of hours every day. You're here to play with energy and experience. That's the first thing, the IQ. Then in the EQ, you have to stop resigning from your own emotions. You want to come into them and have all the colors of the rainbow. You're six-lining your emotions. And that's the piece you're going to get, to have that guitar that has all the strings and it can express them to your whole family. And then in the SQ, it's down to the bones. So there is like down to the bones femininity and being that shamanic 51, that thunder, that is also underpinned by the attraction. It's the feminine sensual Shakti. So there is so many things for you to reclaim and activate. And when you take this journey, you have the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual, like friends, hand in hand. And they are going to walk, they are going to hold together your pearl sequence. That's what they're going to hold. And in your pearl sequence, there is, and this is what I think we would need more time for, like another time maybe, but you have a conjunction with your Jupiter and your Saturn. And the Saturn comes in and takes the place of the EQ and the vocation. That's Mars on the personality side, the design Mars, the immature masculine. Actually, what comes in is Saturn, and he's going to tell. He's going to tell, the both immature boys what's really there. And for you, you have a fourth line. It's serving the feminine. So exactly what Simone was saying. Your masculine, action-oriented, mind consciousness thing is here to serve the feminine. It's here to be the structure in 60. The structure is the banks of the river, so that your 2-5, your feminine Shakti can flow. That's what the masculine is here for. He's not here to be like a fallen leader that never made it, that was always in trial and error and and it's not here to resign your emotions. He's really here to support the expression of Shakti, which is the feminine in you. So that's what's going to underpin your pearl sequence. And I feel like Ash is going to speak a little bit about that strong leadership theme that you have in your pearl sequence, because you have two keys that are programming partner, the 31 and the 41, that are super strong leadership, but it underpins you taking back physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual together, not hanging out in the ashna and the head when you're not grounded in the part of you with the generator fire.
I'm going to need to listen back to this.
I think that I'm going to give a little bit. I mean, I don't feel like I have to be on camera or live to share the things that I have, because you and Simone, Bella and Simone, had so much great stuff, but I feel like there's a a private conversation that we'll have that doesn't need to be on air. Not that I have anything super vulnerable or anything like that, but I first want to say that I'm just so grateful that you had the courage to say yes to something like this, because you're out there, you're in front of people, and you're being a leader of sorts, because again, this is the first time we've done that. You don't have a reference point that says, oh, this is what happens when Simone, Ashley, and Bella come live. Like, you didn't know Simone was going to do any of that stuff, say any of that stuff, because we've never done it with anybody before. You're the first one. So in a sense, you are the leader of that. So I did want to say, like, thank you so much for your either knowing or unknowing courage that kind of came forth here, because we're so grateful that it was you. And I also want to say that I'm very, very attuned to, you have the 6, I have the 6, conflict. And there's something about you and about your emotions that are your authority. You don't go completely into them. And I could feel that the dam wanted to break, and you don't let it happen for yourself. You're very strong, and you're very like, your mind takes over and it says, let's understand this logically. Emotions, it doesn't matter. We're not going to go there. We can't go there. It's not safe to go there. And so you stay in your head and you're like, I mean, I have the 4 too. The 4 in your life's work, it is like, let's understand, like that's in my emotions. For me to understand things and be okay emotionally, I have to go into the patterns, and you have to go into the patterns. It has become a pattern for you to go into the patterns, and it's been a safety net for you to not go into your emotions. And I can feel the conflict that you have with your emotions, because there were times where you were like, I can't cry on camera, I can't do this. So it's almost like you couldn't open up, just like you can't share any of the spiritual stuff outside. Like, okay, we go to church, but there's things that we can't share. There's parts of you that you can't share, and because of what you feel. And so it's about saying, like, screw it. Like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be here completely. And I really love the way that Bella was starting to weave. I mean, it's true about the trial and error of the pregnancy. And I also feel like, and it's interesting that this came up, because I was just contemplating it earlier today, that in pregnancy, it is basically programming your SQ, your EQ, and your IQ. So everything that's happening in pregnancy is a pattern for what is being programmed in the child's life. And so I was starting to look back at my pregnancies, and I was looking and seeing, like, okay, first trimester, I'm going to look at, I have 4 kids as well. I'm going to look at this kid. What was I going through in the first trimester? What was I going through in the second? What was I going through in the third? And everything that Bella was saying was completely matching up for what was being programmed. You're swimming in the conflict, in the agitation, in the shock, and in the that's so much craziness in uterus. Like, you went through, I don't even know what you went through, and you were swimming in it, and it was programming you. So it's just very, very interesting to be able to see that these patterns and how we're influenced by the environment that we're in. And like Bella was saying, the 31 is your vocation. It's also the wounded masculine. And this is about you showing up as a leader. I mean, you have 31 and 41. They're programming partners. 31 and 41 together create this morphogenic field where you're able to access the leaders of the past, the present, and the future, and be able to share that with the world, with the people. And so having that is super powerful. But to be able to attune yourself to that frequency and to the trial and errors of these leaders, it's profound to be able to share that and be able to share your own trial and error, being a 3-5 and then having a third line. There's a lot of shame in who I am. Is it too much? Like, you have that genius to freak channel. Am I a genius? Am I a freak? How are people going to receive me? Am I worthy? All that stuff comes into play with, like, can I show up completely? And as Bella, and I think it was when Simone was talking, my wind chime was going off, and I glued a key to it, and the key says courage. And I kept looking at your 51, because the 51.1 is about courage, and it is about safety. So it's like, amidst the conflict that you feel, and and whether you feel like, oh, should I do this or not, when we can take initiative, that just opens so much up for us. So there's something about when you feel the agitation, and that feels very uncomfortable in your body. I have this as well in my attraction sphere. It's very disarming. And so if you can sit for a while and then go into the emotions and be like, what's happening? What kind of wants to spring forth from there too? There's a portal to your heart that opens, then that's going to give you that access to that true leadership. And so it's almost like anytime you feel the agitation, anytime you feel like, oh, there's something that wants to come up, and almost feel like your emotions were bubbling over. And like, I almost felt like too, so there's conflict happening in the emotions, and I could see it happening in front of me, the whole IQ, EQ battle going on. The IQ is like, no, we can't go into the emotions. This can't happen. I can't break through on camera. I can't break through now. And so there's conflict happening here. And it's almost like Simone had to keep poking you in a loving way, because she's like, here, I'm bringing forth this and this and this. And eventually I could feel like there was little releases, it was little. And I'm like, there's a huge one that wants to come for her. And whether it's in private or not, that's like up to you. Anyways, we're not here to be witness of the dam breaking, but the dam wants to break. And I feel like that's kind of what I want to share now. We do have to get off, but I want to have a conversation with you after. Simone, I feel like you have something, right?
I have two things to say. So as Bella was talking, your soul leaned back, all the way back, and his heart was speaking. And it's like you speak. He was trying to say you speak through your heart as you share your flower. And that's all of you. So imagine just curved back with your heart up to the world, and just flowers coming out. And then when Ashley was talking about the courage to go there, he went back to that image where the trees were on the other side of the green, and he brought those trees right up to your pathway. So having the courage to bring your desires, the things that are in your heart, right up to where you are. And those were two images that were so powerful. I just wanted to circle back around, and they came in, one while Bella was talking and the other while Ashley was talking. So it has been a pleasure for me to work with you today, for all of us. Thank you so much, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Simone. I know that you have to go.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye, Simone.
Bye, Simone.
And Sue, we'll wrap up off live. I know that you'll actually have to catch Tim's next talk after we get off. So I know that you enjoyed Tim. But thank you, everybody who watched live. And again, thank you, Sue, for your courage and transparency, because Bella illuminated that in your North and South node. Transparency is a big thing, and it took courage for you to get there. So I am so happy that you were the first, and that you leaded the way for this. You paved the way for this to happen, and it happened so beautifully. And I hope that it was great for you too, because we didn't hear too much. Yes.
No, it was just perfect. And I'll listen back to it and take it on an even deeper level. It's time.
Okay, so stay with me, Sue, and we'll see you all later, everybody. Thank you.